You might have heard this past week some massive, groundbreaking, earth-shattering news in the world of sports that went down in the Supreme Court of the United States. The state of New Jersey, in Murphy versus the NCAA, challenged the constitutionality of PAPSA, which was the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act passed in 1992, which is also known as the Bradley Act because one of its big sponsors was former New York Knick and New Jersey Senator Bill Bradley, which basically outlawed sports betting throughout the U.S. And sure, you had exceptions such as horse racing. You had exceptions like the state of Nevada, and a couple of other places could do different types of things. But in general, for the mass majority of the country, it meant you couldn't go somewhere legally or online or anywhere else and place your bets. You couldn't bet legally on football or basketball or baseball or the NCAA. You couldn't do any of that. And the state of New Jersey, through Murphy versus the NCAA, challenged the constitutionality of PAPSA under the grounds of the 10th Amendment, which states the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. And it's funny because the 10th Amendment is typically not something that you see brought up in a ton of Supreme Court cases, a bunch of Supreme Court decisions. But the approach that the state of New Jersey took here after years of trying to battle for this to legalize sports gambling for a state that desperately needs the money, like frankly so many other states do, the legal strategy here was genius. It was absolute genius, basically saying that the federal government was overstepping its bounds by legislating upon the states what the states could do when it was not specifically spelled out in the Constitution that they could do so. It's a pretty lock-solid argument. Surprisingly, it only won with a majority vote of 6-3. You had a couple of the liberal moderate justices flip over, and you had 3 that opposed it, which to me is completely and totally ridiculous. But nonetheless, you only need to get the 5 votes, and they got to 6. And thank God we're stepping out of the frickin' Stone Ages here. Because it's so stupid that sports betting was ever outlawed to begin with. This is like prohibition of alcohol to a certain degree. People are going to do it anyways. You might as well control it, regulate the marketplace, and by God, profit from it. It's these stupid-ass Bible thumpers and fucking morality police that hate it. As, mind you, they go to the local convenience store, gas station, grocery store, and buy their scratch-offs and their stupid damn Powerball tickets every freaking week. It's just so ridiculous. There's so much money to be made out there. People are doing it illegally anyways, or they're doing it online, or they're going to Vegas and placing their bets there. Why in the hell would you not want to get into that marketplace? It's like freaking marijuana at this point. You're fighting against the inevitable. And so many bad things come out of it being illegal. Just legalize the shit. Because you want to talk about gambling addictions and so on and so forth. All types of people get gambling addictions, and these types of things have been illegal. So it's going to happen anyways. What the hell is the difference? And literally, what the hell is the difference? I think about my hometown, specifically Rockford, Illinois. The steaming pile of shithole that place is. Outdated and backwards in every single way. All these years later, they still haven't gotten a freaking casino in the town. The second biggest city in Illinois. Population probably, 200,000+ people, especially when you factor in the surrounding areas. But Rockford and these morality police and these stupid-ass Bible thumpers, we can't have the casino here. That shouldn't be a priority. That's not how we should want to make our money. Well, ding-dong, dumb dicks, guess what the hell happens? They build those casinos in Joliet, and Aurora, and Elgin, and Rock Island, and across the border for Iowa, across the Mississippi River in Dubuque. And guess what happens to people that live in Illinois? They still want to go to the casinos. They're going to one of these other places, you stupid idiots! And as a result, that local community is missing out on millions of dollars that could go into the community. It could go into the local schools. It's one of these things, if you're going to have something bad, at least try to do it well. And in this case, if people are going to do it anyways, which in the case of my hometown, they do, they just go everywhere else other than where they fucking live to throw away their money, you might as well have it in place, and you might as well make some profit off of it. And that's what this comes down to. It's like the whole thing with DraftKings and FanDuel and different states really getting caught off guard and then be like, oh my God, this is gambling. Should it have even freaking mattered? Just from a common sense standpoint, the answer is no. If people get addicted to it, that's their own damn problem. If it wasn't going to be this vice, it was going to be something else. That's their issue. That's their problem to deal with. Furthermore, we could sit there and do this and we could do that, but we can't sit there and play fantasy sports and try to make some money off of it? Give me a fucking break. How ridiculous. It's just so stupid. And if anything, this is a signal to me of occasionally we can get something right. And we're finally getting something right here. Now, what does it really mean? Why does it matter? What this does now, with PASPA being ruled unconstitutional, the Bradley Act being basically null and void, it clears the way for states to legislate legalized sports gambling. Now, this isn't necessarily going to do with bets across state lines. Your interstate betting, that could still be illegal because that falls under federal jurisdiction. But intrastate, like I live in Virginia, I could go somewhere here in Richmond, potentially long term, and place a bet. Would be something I would hope at some point that Virginia's legislature would have enough brain power and brain matter to understand this needs to happen. Otherwise, people are going to go to other states and place the fucking bets. It means the states now can legislate it and control it, regulate it themselves. It allows people to stay local and gamble, do it legally, be able to potentially come out of the shadows from doing it, deal with it in a different way, and in the process could be a massive financial boom to many of the states in this country that frankly sorely need the revenues. There are a lot of states that need the revenues, and these are revenues that they're missing out on. A few states have started to catch on when it comes to marijuana, and now here is a way to get another big financial boom. It also could be a massive boom, potentially, to the values of franchises in the sports leagues in this country. Because now you could potentially be talking about more money being thrown at these sports via gambling, and now legally where it can be tracked. It could potentially represent an artificial bubble that creates almost instantaneously where the values of these franchises explode exponentially. It absolutely could. Now, it's not just as simple as that. There's going to be some hurdles along the way. People that have bet illegally may still choose to do so because they want their gains to be ill-gotten because they don't want to deal with the tax man or different reasons. Also because when you gamble legally, that means you're probably going to have to come up with the money up front, or maybe if you deal with a local bookie, sometimes you can place bets based off of credit. So that's something to think about. You also have the question of how to effectively legislate it and regulate it. Now that we're talking about gambling also becoming legalized, what do we do to make sure that the integrity of these sports, whatever that means, is protected, especially when you get to the amateur ranks, the college level specifically in the NCAA. Now, if we've got even more money flowing into the sport via legalized gambling, could point shaving and other things become a real concern. You're also going to have these sports leagues, these greedy-ass sports leagues, wanting their effective piece of the pie. And I've heard about this being talked about with the integrity fee. Now, let me get this fucking straight. The sports leagues who opposed this publicly but privately wanted this, now, for something they should already be including into their cost of business, which is ensuring the integrity of their sport, want the taxpayers basically, or the bettors in this case, to take a percentage of what they pay for their gambling, for their winnings, and give it away to these leagues for the integrity of the sports. Give me a fucking break. Kiss my ass. These owners, these leagues, these franchises are going to profit enough. Because they could set up booths at the stadium. People can bet on all types of things. And you want to be paid a percentage for the right to profit even more? Bullshit. Kiss my ass. And if that's allowed to happen in any of these states, shame on them. Don't get punked. Don't get intimidated. You look at the Carolina Panthers, just sold to David Tepper for what, $2.2 billion? In a couple of years, that franchise could be worth $3 billion or more. Why in the hell, let's say if your state, North Carolina, gets a couple $100 million from legalized gambling, why the hell should you be floating him $20, $30, $40 million a year when he's already profited exponentially off of it in the damn self? Especially if he's eventually got booths set up in the damn stadium. Not to mention the value that increases in terms of television rights, all these other things that could have a windfall be generated potentially, which is still potentially, from legalized sports gambling. The hell should you have to pay for the right to do that? That is absolutely ridiculous and insane, and shame on any state that sits there and kowtows to the freaking sports leagues, these goddamn mafioso Nazis that want their cut up front with the integrity fee for the right for them to make even more money. Unbelievable. But in general, this is a good thing. Now, there could be some potential consequences based off of this ruling using the 10th Amendment, how that it could apply to other things such as states and how they choose to enforce immigration, gun policies, and so forth. But those are different conversations for a different time. In and of itself, right here, when we're talking about sports gambling, this is a necessary evil. This is something that absolutely had to happen. It was ridiculous that sports gambling was even outlawed like that, where the federal government's telling the states they can't freaking do that. Doesn't that inherently seem kind of anti-constitution? Just saying. This had to happen. If this bothers you on religious grounds or so forth, you probably don't read the good books as nearly as much as you think you do, and you probably do a lot of damn things yourself: smoke, drink, get tattoos, extramarital affairs, sex before marriage. Let's not choose sports gambling as the hill to fucking die on, because you're probably committing much worse sins yourself. Think about that, Bible thumpers. The next time you're scratching off your freaking instant lotto tickets at the damn grocery store on Sundays after you get out of church service. This is something to celebrate. It's like every once in a while in this world and in this country, common sense can still win out. Now let's hope states do the right thing, jump on this quickly, so that way they can maximize the opportunity and get some more revenues that a lot of these states frankly sorely need.